Hey everybody, this is a7xfanben's, and this is my official entry video for Ocean Terrain Contest number 3, which I started in the summer of 2017, and the contest ran for a year, and it's ending on August 1st of 2018. So the main premise of the contest, as with the first and second ones, which were hosted a number of years back, is basically to make an ocean of pirate stuff, or you don't have to make a game board or table, but you can just make a lot of custom terrain and islands for the game, preferably that you would use, and put some effort into it and try to get some creative ideas going. And then at the end of the contest, everybody reveals their stuff with pictures and or videos and whatnot, and maybe talks about how they made stuff. And there's a prize at the end. So for this one, everybody contributed $20 that's entering the contest, and then the winner, I think, gets 50%. But mostly it's a fun way to have like a competition to see who can make the best pirates terrain as voted on by the entrants in the contest. So this is my little video. There's a lot of caveats to this. So I made pretty much all this stuff in summer of 2017, actually. This is being recorded July 21st, 2018. I haven't really done a lot since last August and September, partly because I wanted to get out of the gate quickly and make a lot of stuff early on. So, and that led to Command the Oceans, which is, I'm going to put a link in the description below and wherever else I post this video. So Command the Oceans was a campaign game I played from September through December of 2017. It became the biggest campaign game, or game in general, of pirates ever recorded. And with over 9,000 total points in play at the peak size of the game. So it was completely insane, far bigger than anything even I've ever done. And I originally started that game as a way to showcase the custom islands and terrain that I made for Ocean Terrain Contest number 3, but as happens with campaign games, it ballooned into its own thing. So instead of just being a game to celebrate and to do grand reveals of the terrain, the game became way bigger than just, revealing the stuff I made, which was still a major showcase and centerpieces of the maps and oceans for that game, because I played it on 3 different oceans in 2 different rooms. So anyway, and so I'm going to get started. I'm just going to talk about briefly what I made, how I made it, and just kind of the features, kind of my creative thoughts behind it, why I did certain things. And another caveat would be I'm making a text post for this as well. So hopefully the pictures will hold up long term, but I'm making a text and picture-based post that will explain things in more detail. Some of that I wrote in 2017, I believe. There's going to be some snippets of emails with Ross and Az, because we talked about ocean and terrain and island making a bunch through email. So there's going to be snippets of that. It's going to be a kind of a conglomeration. So my overall entry is made up of Command the Oceans as like battle reports, the text and picture-based post for this, along with this video, and anything else I can source. So it's kind of my entry is kind of all over the place. But anyway, and I do plan to make a lot more pirates terrain in the future, but there is basically not enough incentive for me right now because I already made all this stuff and I used it last year, and I'm basically not going to be able to play another huge physical pirates campaign game where I get to use a lot of this type of stuff for many years and possibly many decades. So I just have a lot of other things that I'd rather do first, so it's probably going to be a long time before I make a lot of custom islands and terrain for pirates again, because I want to use it. I need to use it. I don't want to make stuff that I won't use in games, and preferably in big physical campaign games. So there's not a lot of reason to make a ton of stuff if I'm not going to use it, preferably within 6 months to a year, if not sooner. So anyway, I'll get into things here, stop rambling a little bit, actually talk about the stuff. So you're noticing this big black chunk right in front here. This is one of the first things I made. This is Captain Mission's Pirate Kingdom. And another thing, there are massive Command the Ocean spoilers in this video, so if you want to see the Command the Oceans game, I would recommend checking that out first. And especially with at least one of these, there's some serious spoilers. But I'll try to keep it to a minimum now that I think about it. Going into this video, I figured I'd reveal more, but maybe I'll try to keep it kind of vague so you don't learn everything about Command the Oceans, which is a pretty crazy game to read about. I will say it will take a while to read about because the battle reports total around 486 pages in a Google document. So it's not really something you can realistically consume in one sitting, to say the least. But it's one of my grandest achievements in Pirates CSG overall, and like I said, the biggest game ever played. So Captain Mission is a character from some of the sets: Mysterious Islands, Rise of the Fiends, Fair and Steel, and his flavor text talks about a kingdom. So that was inspired a fleet of mine, and now it inspired this this game piece that I made last year. So basically this was, and you can see in the pictures in my post on the forum at Miniature Trading, this was a piece of white foam, pretty much like a square block, and yeah, there's already stuff falling off of it. It's pretty funny in a way, kind of unfortunate. You can see a chunk here. I'm just gonna take that off. So basically, so it's a white styrofoam block, and I basically hollowed it out. I had this idea where this part here, this like pillar almost, that was already there, and this part hollowed out, that was like that. So, and then there was like, I don't know, you can see it in the pictures, but it wasn't like this at all. But there was the original shape of the foam piece gave me the ideas I needed to actually make this come to life. So then I hollowed out a huge chunk in the middle, and then I did this double archway thing. So I'm gonna start moving it around and showing it off in the light. So there's a double archway. So you may have noticed from some of my other terrain that I've used in the past, in Economy Edition, for example, I always love arches. So I like having ships go under stuff. It can be kind of impractical for gameplay, but it's something I like to do. And then I've got some ships for scale in this video. So Les Superbes, for example, this is a pirate kingdom, so a French ship, wouldn't sail in here without being attacked. But you can see Les Superbes makes it into the kingdom, and then let's say she turned around, managed to come about, and then she's going to come back in, or come back out, I should say, through this archway. So then she comes in. It is pretty narrow, and in the future I might make the arches wider and then repaint a little bit. But anyway, it's still a pretty cool thing. So once I got the shape down and I had this widened to the width I wanted, because you can actually fit some ships in here, not a lot, it's still not nearly as big as I would want it, but I really had to hollow it out. Like the back wall is very thin, especially at the bottom. So anyway, so it's basically like a pirate kingdom / hideout where the pirates can use it as a home base, which they did. This was the pirate home island, basically, in Command the Oceans, and it is still kind of square. I hacked at it a ton, and then I blasted it with black spray paint, and then it did kind of make it look skeletal. So you'll notice that there is kind of an interesting look to how it appears here. So it's kind of a double-edged sword, because on the one hand, a lot of people talked about how they liked it when I first revealed Command the Oceans, because it's kind of like a skeletal look, which fits with the pirates. The only problem is it makes it more fragile and delicate, so you can kind of hear it when I pick it up. It's very light, like any foam, but it's also very brittle, so you can just, almost no pressure is needed to start breaking some bonds there. So that's kind of a weird effect. At least it didn't melt the foam. It was kind of a weird thing, because when I spray painted it, it didn't show up right away, this like skeletal effect. It was kind of more of a gradual thing. So at least it didn't melt it, because spray paint can melt some types of foam, but didn't here, so that's good. So, and then another thing, I added some grass, some of that green powdered grass, and then over here you'll notice this awesome gold waterfall. So this is a neat idea I had. I have some metallic gold paint that I used in some other stuff, and then there's actually a video on my YouTube channel of me doing this, where I dumped a little bit of the paint, and then I didn't do anything. I just simulated the waterfall effect by just letting it drip down. So I had a little bit of an indentation there, and then the gold waterfall just goes down to the bottom. So I guess in some future game it could be like a source of infinite gold for the pirates, although that's, you know, probably not the best idea from a rules perspective. And then this is actually something I added. Everything else was just cut out and hollowed out and things like that. Over here I made this little cave, which I like. So there's like a cave, it got the grasses there. And it's not supposed to be very white. The white spots are basically just from wear and tear and like using it a lot in Command the Ocean. So like this area here is where a ton of army units and coins were during the game. So, you know, it's been used because that's what I'm gonna do with it if I make something like this. So this is what I added though. So this is like the ledge. So for example, a ship could be right here and then she could take on stores from a ladder or a cable going to the deck of the ship or to one of the masts. So she could load up some troops or a specific crew, things like that. It also functions as a nice place for a fort. So you could build a fort and put it basically on the ledge here, and then it juts out, and then you've got cannons going this way. And then a nice house rule is to maybe give them extended range due to the height, because they could, you know, the projectile will get further into the air. And you can also use it as a platform for artillery, just in general, beyond forts. So that's my Captain Mission's Pirate Kingdom. This is one of the better things I made, and one of the more creative and interesting pieces I made. But I think it's time to move on. So I'm going to put this over here, and you can start to see a little preview of some of the other stuff. So I'm going to kind of resituate here and bring this one over. So I'll try to get them all in a shot by the end of it. But I made a lot of big stuff. So a lot of this kind of came to me through where I work, which is at a hardware store. So basically, I was able to kind of look for stuff, and a lot of times there's random cardboard and foam from some of the shipments we get in and packages and whatnot. So, for example, I think this held either mugs or candles or something, and you can see the original in the picture text post on Miniature Trading and the other sites. But I basically cut this out. This is the castle, the original castle from Command the Oceans. And we're going to see another one that I haven't really done much with yet, actually. So this one, it's a very raw piece, I'll admit. It's not, you know, this is not finished technically. Like, it'd be nice to have like a brick design and maybe gray instead of this like tan, this white tannish color. But I think it works pretty well because you flip it and you've got these natural ramparts where you can put troops and artillery and stuff like that. You've got this kind of like a citadel or like a city in there, or a town at least, and you could store stuff in there. So you've got the castle walls, and then one of the cool things, we've got the Grand Wind is another little ship for scale here. It looks like she can't really fit through, but some of the smaller ships can actually go underneath. So once again, there's arches, and then there's an arch on the other side too. So you've got that aspect going here. And I'll try not to give it too much away, but the castle was featured in Command the Oceans, and it was pretty exciting, to say the least. So check that game out if you want to see more of this type of thing. And I basically just cut out pieces and made the walls, and then I purposely made it look kind of run down because it's like an abandoned castle in Command the Oceans. So, and then I cut these little areas out. And I've got more of this cardboard molding, so I'm going to do more stuff with that. And for example, another part of my entry is another type of castle. So this one I almost used in Command the Oceans. Pretty sure I made this one before that one, but I decided I didn't like the all black look because this one was spray painted. I purposely didn't make it too dark so it looks a little bit more reasonable, but it's supposed to be like a man-made castle, but I ended up going with the other one because I liked the color a little bit more, and I wanted the extra length. It's a little bit bigger on the one end. So this is another one. This one is a little different because it's got these extra ramparts in between. So that's pretty cool. Extra defenses. The only problem is these skinny ones, you can't really put much on them, but you can put army units from Risk on here, which in Command the Oceans, army units were part of the game. So anyway, so I'll move to the next one, which over here is just a basic island. So this was like a big chunk of foam that's really difficult to hack apart. And then from part of my childhood. I have some like staghorns and fossils and whatnot, and shells. So this is called Broken Horn Island because I've got a couple of the horns here. These, theoretically, that's what they represent. So 2 of them are broken. So Broken Horn Island was also featured in Command the Oceans, though not nearly as much as some of the other stuff. So this one's kind of basic and kind of random, but just a fun piece. So we move to this grand giant thing here, and this is the Roost. So if you've seen Command the Oceans, you know about this one. So basically, this is kind of like a cursed feature piece. It's hard to even really get everything in the shot here. And this is just gigantic, and I'll have the measurements in the final entry post. This piece of foam came kind of like this, and then I cut out part of this to make it taller, and then I cut out like the sides to make this giant double archway. Reminds me of like the Valhalla and like Viking lore and whatnot. So, and then these rocks were actually glued to the back because it's very like front heavy. So this is the front end, and then you can kind of see how this would tip. So before I glued those rocks, I was trying to get it set up right on the ocean for Command the Oceans, but it kept tipping like this. I mean, it would just fall. So I glued those rocks to the back just to provide stability, and now it's very solid. It doesn't even tip, and like you saw, it just came back this way. So it basically can't tip anymore, which is kind of the point. So that's the front entrance you're seeing from the back right there, which is the lowest point, or the lowest like arch, so to speak. And then there's this like V-shaped at the back, which I haven't used too much. This was kind of in a weird spot in Command the Oceans because it was very difficult to, you know, access. So like this back part, even myself, I haven't like looked at it that much, or like in this back part, you don't even see that much in Command the Oceans. It's basically in this like far corner of the room and of the ocean that like you can't even get to, basically. So anyway, so it's called the Roost because it's like designed as like a sea dragon roost. So this is kind of like a nest I kind of built a little bit. Very basic right now. I might add to it sometime, but so it's basically like a sea dragon roost. So it's pretty sweet, and the sea dragons fit nicely in this little spot, and I'll have pictures of that, of course. So they fit nicely in there. And then there's these other areas too, so it's kind of foreboding. You've got these holes that I punched out. It's very like craggy looking, you know, it's got these crags and just kind of a jagged look. And the black spray paint combined with the white combined to give it that kind of that evil look, evil feel. So it's pretty cool. It's very foreboding. And then if you approach it, this is basically the front. So you approach it from here, you come under this like shadow, and you see, I mean, it's just, you can see the ship for scale. This is just a gigantic piece, really. So, and then we can see the Grand Wind, for example, if she was going to sail into there. It's really just massive. So it's foreboding if you were to try to enter, you enter this shadow as you go under. So pretty cool. It's kind of heavy, especially with the rocks. It's really gigantic. It's kind of unwieldy. It's hard to even manage in a game because you have to use like a giant map or ocean just to even consider using it. But that said, it's still one of the cooler things I've made, I think, in my opinion. Alright, so moving on, I'm accumulating some debris on the sheet here from all the stuff that flakes off, mostly from the Pirate Kingdom. But so this is Captain Nemo's submarine hideout. So this is a foam piece, or not a foam, this is cardboard, basically from this same thing that had the extra ramparts. So it housed like a mug or a candle. But then, so this is like a nice castle, so that works. And that works as like a standalone, basic, like small castle type thing, like a sea castle. But these are great because you can turn them over. So that's one of the ways I like to think up ideas for custom islands and terrain. I flip stuff, I turn it on the side. I just basically just do a ton of configurations with it. And then from there, I get ideas. So I just flip this over, and then look at this, you got door, look. So even without the cardboard, it's a perfect little door. And notice how it's very short. So I'll get Les Superbes here. And this ship is way too tall, obviously. So, but then of course, we've got the Nautilus. So submarines can go in. They're just skinny enough, even the bigger ones, to go in there. And then you've got your submarine inside Captain Nemo's hideout, and you can remove that to go and look at the stuff inside when you're accessing the subs. And then of course, these are just cut from some of the cardboard scrap leftovers. And so those are the doors, which I have described as like mechanical doors, because if the mercs are using submarines and whatnot, they should be able to figure out how to build like mechanical doors into this like rocky formation. So this is another one, just like the Roost and Captain Mission's Pirate Kingdom. They're basically natural structures with like man-made elements or man-made changes to them. So here it's basically like a big black rock in the middle of the sea, and then the mercs managed to get these doors in there to seal off the inside. So then you've got these caves, essentially, these natural caves with the doors. And then if I wanted to bring the Nautilus back out, let's say inside the sub hideout she submerges, then she turns around, and then she comes out submerged, ready to attack. So then she's ready to ram, like Superb, for example, coming right out of the sub hideout. So this is a cool piece that I like a lot. I love the concept. I still need to work on it more. So this one's not technically done. It's not like, I mean, it's done. I mean, I used it in Command of the Oceans a bunch, so it's not, I mean, I don't know. Everything to me, it kind of reminds me of custom game pieces. Custom islands and terrain, they're never necessarily finished. So even the Pirate Kingdom is one of the most finished pieces I have, but you know, obviously it could already use some more black paint. And then this one, so I think I've already talked about it a little bit, but the sub hideout, I'd like to add maybe some shrubbery or trees. These areas are a little bit bare. I kind of like the idea of like housing troops there. I do put the doors there when I'm not using them. You can just dump them in there. So it's a nice little pocket area, but I want to make it look more natural, a little bit more reasonable. And Rosinaz gave me the idea of cutting out the top, and then you could remove it, like a removable top. So I might do that as well, depending on how I can get it set up and if I like that configuration. And then I do like, they weren't able to build a custom Merc fort in Command of the Oceans, but I like the idea of having a fort on top too. Because there are some custom mercenary forts out there, and more on that in some of the other threads, of course. So that's Captain Nemo's submarine hideout. And then I guess I'll save the other one for last. And in the meantime, we have another ridiculously giant piece. It's like the Godzilla shot in the trailer where it's like you can't see all of Godzilla because it just can't. It's too massive. You can't pan out fast enough to get a glimpse. So here we go. So this is the harbor. So basically, this was a piece that originally had more of a middle section. You can kind of see where the foam was cut and broken. So it was a big white chunk of foam, relatively flat. The piece inside was pretty flat. And so I decided, after much thinking about it, and I've got the original pictures, of course, in the thread, but after a lot of thinking about it and pondering what to do with it, I finally decided to cut it out and then have this giant open area, which can be used as a modular harbor. So basically in Command of the Oceans, you can see that it was used as a harbor by the French. So fittingly, the Superb is in there right now. So the idea is you use cardboard docks to make a modular harbor, meaning that you can change how it is. So I was originally going to glue docks to the sides to the bottom of the harbor, but I realized that would be a really bad idea because then it would be permanent, or I'd have to like really wreck it just to change it. So then, you know, I could just do docks that are just kind of sitting against the edges, which is I did in Command of the Oceans, because then the French were able to build their harbor throughout the game by paying like 10 gold or whatever for a new dock. So it was a pretty cool idea. This is one of my favorite ideas in general, along with, I think a few other people said it might have been their favorite custom terrain piece, or not really terrain in this case, but from Command of the Oceans in general. One of the highlights, definitely. So the walls on the outside are pretty high as the main mast, or taller than the Superb, for example. You can get the grand wind over here, get a couple good shots in. So it's a really interesting piece. I like the idea of like kind of, instead of like walls surrounding like an ancient city, we've got like a sea-based city. So, and it is pretty unrealistic, of course, but a lot of things in Pirates are. So the idea of like these massive like concrete or whatever they are walls surrounding like this harbor inside isn't too far-fetched when you think about scorpions and the sea creatures and whatnot. So anyway, so the harbor, one of my favorite pieces, and I think I may also do a specific video on this at a later date as well, because there's so much more to say about it. And I also, this is one game piece where I'm not going to give too much away, but it might not even be this same harbor, but I have a bunch of crazy ideas that I really am excited to try in the very distant future for some of my campaign games that I plan to play. So, including hopefully this harbor, but I mean, you could do this with a lot of things. You could even just do basic flat docks as like a perimeter, and then just docks in the inside to make a harbor. So you could do this too. But whether it's with this one or not, there's a lot of harbor ideas I have. So definitely stay tuned for that. Although it may not, you know, come to fruition for many years. So we'll see though. And I'm saving one of my favorites for last. So this is the tunnel. And this was a piece that used to be bigger, if you can believe it. This was part of a giant, absolutely gigantic chunk of foam. Maybe just about the biggest piece I found at my job at the hardware store. And the tunnel is a piece of foam that used to be white, and I turned it into this gigantic, really tall tunnel. So this is one of the biggest showcases or showpieces in Command the Oceans. And you can see just how tall it is and just how long it is. You can see way down there. Let's actually get the grand wind down at the other end. And then I actually got a flashlight. You can see the grand wind there. So check that out. It's the tunnel. It's pretty crazy. And it's a really nice piece overall. So I cut it out from that bigger chunk of foam, and originally there was, you can see on the side here, let me get the view here, this part here was not attached. So that was, it was almost like a tunnel inside a tunnel. I could have left the original piece alone, but I think it would have been too big, and it basically would have led to a situation where there would have been a ton of stuff happening under the tunnel in any game, but I'd have to like remove it from play just to get at all the stuff inside. So it would be all this like hidden stuff. So it'd be a total nightmare for playing. And even in Command the Oceans, even this tunnel was kind of difficult to say the least at times. So I had to take it off the ocean to modify it, as I'll talk about and as the battle reports show. But this originally led to the underneath of the rest of the original foam piece, which I've got pictures of. But then I wanted to seal it off. I didn't want the tunnel to have like an arch or like a double tunnel effect, really. So I didn't want it to be too open. I wanted it to be pretty closed off and dark inside the whole thing and be more uniform. So I cut this chunk of foam from maybe one of the same pieces, or one of the pieces I used to make the harbor, and you can kind of tell it's kind of fit. I cut it to fit that same gap. So then I just glued it in, and you can see here that's where the original was cut as well, along with that end there. So it's really cool. It's got, so I put some rocks and some grasses on top, and I'm not gonna spoil Command the Oceans too much. There's a lot more I could say, to say the least, but I do like how this area is neat too. You can put an artillery unit up there from Risk, and I do like how it kind of came like this. There's a wall, perimeter wall on this side, but then not on this side, and there's a lot more I could say about that as well. But the tunnel is basically a very unique game piece that I plan to use many times, hopefully, probably not for a long time from now, but because Command the Ocean's last physical campaign game I'll be playing for a long time. But in the distant future, I hope to use the tunnel again. So definitely kind of a foreboding twist, because there's, as much as I did with the tunnel and Command the Oceans, there's more to be done, to say the least. So, as with other things like the harbor. So, that's something I noticed tonight. This is really stupid, quite frankly, but you could, this was never planned, but you could like put the tunnel like leading to the harbor, which is really crazy, but then you could have a true like impenetrable fortress, because then you could have like a big fleet in the harbor, maybe without that many docks even, and then have like the tunnel like filled with ships, and then have like tons of artillery and a fort on the tunnel, stuff like that. But anyway, just a silly idea. But got a lot more custom ideas too, for islands and terrain. I have a Google Doc with Pirates CSG info in it, and there's a lot more I'd like to make. I have more ideas. I do have a bunch of cardboard and foam that I didn't use for this contest, OTC3, Ocean Terrain Contest number 3, that I hope to use in the future. I have a bad feeling that through the years, a lot of it will probably be thrown out, or just kind of, or I might not even want it. I don't know. So there's a lot of ideas I still have, and I've written them down, and I've taken pictures of some of the stuff that I didn't use, and you've probably seen, you may have seen some of them in some of the threads at Miniature Trading and or other sites. But basically this is most of the stuff for my Ocean Terrain Contest number 3 entry. So the castle, or 2 castles in a way, and there's more I could have shown, and Captain Nemo's mercenary submarine hideout. You've got the Roost, absolutely gigantic, Captain Mission's Pirate Kingdom, Broken Horn Island, which is a minor piece, the tunnel, and the harbor. So I know a lot of this is pretty basic as far as custom islands and terrain, but I care far more about gameplay and using it than how good it looks. So I think the function was proved in Command the Oceans. It functions very well. Sometimes it's annoying, especially the tunnel, the Roost, and the kingdom here. Those 3 can be a pain to use between the arches and stuff, going underneath stuff and in and out all the time, because 2 out of those 3 were used as a home island. So it can be a pain sometimes, but it's usually worth it because the pictures are amazing, the gameplay is amazing. It really spiced up the game and made Command the Oceans like extremely memorable. So anyway, so that sums up this video pretty much. So feel free to give a like, subscribe if you want to see more Pirates content, and I hope to be back soon with more videos. So thank you for watching.